and welcome to the Cade Friends podcast. I'm Cade Thomas, and I am joined this week by Autumn Fourkiller.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing, Autumn?
I'm doing great. I'm honored to be a guest.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Well, Autumn is a writer. I got this from autumnfourkiller.com.
Autumnfourkiller.com.
Autumn Fourkiller is a writer from the early death capital of the world, which is a really great, what would you call it, an essay? What would you call it, article?
An essay,
yeah. She is currently on work on a variety of essays and 2 novels, one of which is about ghosts. Ghosts. Oh yeah, sorry. There was quotation marks in it. She also has a newsletter, Dream Interpretation for Dummies, and you call that Where Dear Abby Meets Native Americana.
I do.
Yeah. And that's on your Substack, correct?
It is on my Substack. Yes.
Yeah. So what is a Substack?
A Substack is, to my knowledge, even though I've had one for a year, it's just like a newsletter platform. And I think now you can do audio. And I just got like a microphone.
You can lean into it.
I can lean into it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just got a microphone, so maybe I will read aloud the dream interpretations.
Oh, that's fun. So what is it? It comes through like email or something? Is that how it is?
Yes. Once you sign up, it just goes straight to your inbox. A lot of Substack insiders, aka me and my friend Celia, use the Substack app now, and that's how we read them.
Oh, so there's an app and then you can go to other people's too. So is it like a little community? You can if
you are a Substack creator, you can open like your inbox, and have a little chat with your subscribers.
That's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
A lot of my subscribers communicate though to me, like either in the comments of the newsletter or in like email form.
So is there a way natively through there to discover people, or is it just through, is it through like Instagram and stuff that you'd find these people?
On Substack itself, like you have,
sorry.
No, I know. Sorry.
I'm sorry. That was a weird way of opening the thing.
I'm a Substack stakeholder now.
Sorry. This episode's brought to you by Substack.
Yeah, I hope they send me some merch.
I do know they do podcasts on there too. Sometimes they're trying to launch that, but probably not a good way of starting it.
I know.
It's a newsletter. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's a newsletter. So I got the FAQ.
Yeah, I guess I could have just looked that up. Yeah.
I felt like I got a little, I was like, do I know?
Going into a business pitch of it. Yeah.
You said this was going to be a friendly podcast.
I'm quizzing you. Yeah. Sorry about that. The
Substack. I do not. If I got anything wrong, I'm so sorry.
Autumn and I, fun fact for our audience, went to college together through RSU. Would be your undergrad, you know, and everything. So that's how we knew it. We were in the honors program together there, and that's how we knew each other, right? Yeah,
we were the most sufferable people there. Sorry.
Yeah. So suffer, okay.
No, like instead of insufferable.
I see. Yeah. It's the opposite. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I've said before, which I don't know. Who knows what's going to be in there about this.
We might have to cut this.
But that was something where we had brought it up. I brought it up before with Alex. I think it was one of Alex's episodes, and who knows, it probably got cut too. But I was like, I don't think I'm going to have anybody on from there, and I didn't have a problem talking about that. But but then later afterwards, I'm like, oh no, I'd have Autumn on, of course. But
I'm gonna have to go back and listen and be like, Cade Thomas is a liar.
Yeah.
No.
So that was, I don't know. I mean, nothing against, I felt like, everyone was kind of, what it was interesting about that whole program is that, like, I mean, there were people very different, you know, but there were, of course, people that were very similar, and they grouped together in ways. And there was a lot of people that were, I think, extroverted, very, you know, like, in that, and it was off-putting in some sort of ways.
Yeah. I think like many programs, especially one like that was as small as ours, and it has like that monetary aspect to it.
I'm glad we could actually talk about this now because that was
there is like, there's always like the group that is like I don't want to say ringleaders because that doesn't feel right because I didn't feel led.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just like a group of people that have really similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
That, you know, find each other. And then there are some people who, you know, make their own group. Yeah.
And it's I think a situation of like, there are those people, and then when they have like that, because there's a process of them choosing, you know, or having something with the next year, and they gravitate toward these people that are very also out like passionate, I guess is the nice way of saying, like really out. And so I think you bring in a lot of people that, I don't know, maybe could have been different. I don't know. You'd think with an honors program, there'd be more bookish sort of people, and there were some aspects of that, but I don't know. It seemed like a lot of, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of the metaphor I always think of as like a kind of a team sport aspect.
Yeah.
I'm writing a little bit about sports right now, and I've been talking to some of my friends who participated, and there is some kind of like, I don't know, attitude or like feeling you have to cultivate to be really good at team sports and to have like a team. I don't think I have that.
I don't think I have it either. Yeah, I agree. And because I don't, they do physical thing like they have, and I'm like, oh, I dreaded those things at all times. Oh, yeah. And but there was this sort of, I don't know. Yeah, I think like, that's exactly a way of putting it.
And maybe that's like my teenage angst speaking, but like to be like go team is just excruciating to me. Even though I do support people and like their ventures, it's just like, oh, don't make me say it.
Yeah.
You know? Or don't make me participate.
Yeah.
In that kind of team building.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a way to sort of like, I don't know, like this. I love conversations. You know, I think we had really great conversations.
We did.
You know, I mean, we weren't. I would say we weren't like really close or whatever. But I think when we had these conversations at various things, and I really found them to be very profound and nice and everything.
Me too. Yeah, I always enjoy talking to you, and I think that we just aligned like politically a lot. We had, I don't know, just like tribal affiliation too. Yeah. And also, just we were both creative people.
Yes.
And value that kind of work.
Yeah. No, and I think that's why that worked is like, because I mean, some people were, like with the way that it worked, it was interdisciplinary, I guess is what you would call it. I don't know. There were people who were doing for different majors essentially. And so there were people that would do different things. And then it's like, that's just a different personality and like just a different view on, I mean, there were people that were going for science things or business stuff or whatever.
And I would say the majority were probably science majors in each class.
Yes.
That's the majority.
And that was, interesting and different. And so there were some subsection of art people and everything. And there wasn't anyone in my grade that was a communications major. And so that's where it was kind of it was tough for me to be, I know I particularly had a tough time at going into there with going from a large school. I went to the largest high school in the state, and where there was tons of, I mean, like I was around people who had essentially the same interest in mine because you had enough of a thing to pull from that I could find the exact people who love filmmaking and loved doing things and loved kind of comedy within that, and had a group of people that liked making stuff and talked about films and had a similar personality to mine because there was a large enough pool to find some people with the same outlooks and stuff. Whereas going to the small university was like, oh boy, it wasn't as simple. And going immediately into the honors program there, and that's essentially what you're in your first year.
Yeah,
it was incredibly difficult because I'm like, oh, none of these people have similar interests to me at all, and they're also completely different personality to me, and what I would find in sort of friends. And so it was a little isolating. And and so that was a kind of a big shock, but, yeah, I don't know.
I think you and I both value humor a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes, not to make like a huge generalization, but when you're in that environment and it is kind of like an inner competition, I feel like there is the urge not to like let that guard down, especially in those first couple years. And you present yourself in like this very interesting, strict way.
Yeah. Well, there's a competitive nature to like you're almost, well, it's designed that way almost like, I mean, I don't know. And that was always something that I was like, I felt like you could never, it was the unsaid sort of thing that you couldn't ever kind of talk about, but there was this power structure within there that was like, it was unquestioned and like, and unchecked. And
yeah. And it's something I think about a lot because when I was a kid, my mom basically told me outright, she's like, you're smart. She's like, I love you, but I'm not going to be able to pay for college. She's like, but you are going to college.
Yeah.
She's like, so you have to, I'm telling you this now, like, you're going to have to figure it out. So with me, like, I almost always knew that like whoever held the money was holding the strings. And it's something I like, I mean, it's not nice to be held over your head, but you know, like it's something I think I made my peace with very quickly. And it's something I talked to Sean, who I'm still very close to in the honors. I'm actually going to be her maid of honor, which is really fun.
Oh,
yeah.
Fun.
She just got engaged. We're really excited, but, yeah, it's just something I made my peace with really quickly. Like it's something I talked to Sean about. I'm like, I always knew that that I was going to have to be, if I needed to be, I would be a show pony if I needed to be. And she was like, "Ooh,
yeah, that's crazy thing." Yeah, I mean, seeing that's I don't know. That's a hard thing for me to.
It's hard to swallow.
Yeah, well, and it's like I don't know. Why I ended up there was that it was a full ride scholarship.
Full ride, yeah.
And so it's hard to sort of say anything because it's like that's such a great opportunity, and like I didn't get that anywhere else. You know, that's why I chose there. You know, I had been accepted into better schools or more prestigious, I probably shouldn't say better, but you know, more prestigious schools. Yeah. That was like, oh, that would be good. And that probably could have put me in a different, you know, path of sorts and maybe other connections and other things. And it might've opened doors or whatever the case was. But, you went to the one of like, at the end of the day, I'm glad I made the choice because I don't have the mountains of debt that other people had.
No regrets in that area. But I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot, like, because I don't know. You're just like, I'm so lucky. I'm the luckiest person in my family.
Yeah.
But only later can you be like, I kind of want to dissect this a little bit. But you still feel so like disloyal to like everything that you've.
Well, because you have the people. I mean, I care about all the people I saw there, and I care about like and then people, and like there were so many great instructors that I don't even think knew some of the stuff. Or like even knew kind of what the structure was behind the scenes, that it was like it I don't know. And you feel bad because like, I don't, you know, but it's like, also, am I the person to say some of this stuff, you know? And like, it's a thing of unchecked power. And it was breeding some sort of, it was a kind of a environment that was a little, it was competitive, a little hostile, a little, like, I don't know. And I think there were information was kept from you, and it was I felt like I was constantly playing mind games with.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone else felt that way. I don't want to
just be like, yeah, but like that's I'm there with you.
And there was seemingly no purpose for it. And I don't think I ever have worked through that whole thing because I'm like, because there was no one to ever really, because you couldn't say it in the situation.
No.
Because then,
no. No, you couldn't. You shouldn't. You wouldn't.
Yeah. Because essentially you could, I mean, like they held everything.
Yeah. You don't want to lose this thing that you've worked so hard for.
Yeah.
And that guarantees you basically to graduate debt free in a world where student loan debt is literally held over your head like like an axe, a knife, a guillotine, like whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a huge sort of and so like but yeah, it was something, and I to what end I don't understand. I still wonder like why. What was the point of so many of these things? Like it was, I mean, I don't get it. I don't, and I don't know if it's just absolute power, corrupts absolutely or whatever. But
sorry. Yeah.
I have no idea. Like, I'm like, why was, but, so many things, so many things, but
we could literally spend the whole time talking about this one thing.
But we won't, because like I said,
I'm just kidding.
No, but I don't get to talk about that very often because people like outsiders, I mean, I have other people who, of course, went to university with us, and they're just like, yeah, there was kind of, I mean, I'm like,
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah,
yeah, it was weird. Yeah, you guys, it was a weird thing.
Yeah,
and we're like, but
yeah, it was. Yeah, and they're like, the people were odd or what, unless like you don't even.
Kenna's always like, you guys. It was like, I thought you guys were freaks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Kenna,
you don't even
friend
know.
of the pod, Kenna.
Yeah, friend of the pod, Kenna. Yeah. Kenna, who'll be on later episode of here, but and who's been on before, of course. Really, one of my favorite episodes. Did you listen to that episode? It was
did.
It was really a good episode, I thought.
With Andrew.
With Andrew, Kenna.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So I liked because we get to with Kenna, we got to talk about some deeper things and stuff. So people shy away from it. I think that's also stuff that we got to talk about too.
For sure.
And we would talk about different things, and which. I think one of the aspects that we got to talk about, and I guess we can pivot into that now, because it's one of the things that I want to have you on for, and I don't want to have it too late in the program. But we're both Cherokee Nation citizens.
We are.
That is a big part of who we are, but it's also a complicated, thorny sort of thing that I don't get to talk about too often to other people, because there's not people that have similar situations, and even so ours is different in a lot of ways, but I do think it's much more similar than other perspectives are. For sure. Yeah.
I have like a really complicated, or always had a really complicated feeling / emotional journey towards like indigeneity and like my identity as like an Indigenous person.
Yeah.
And that like stems from my father. As you know, like it doesn't matter so much now, but like the Cherokee Nation is like a matrilineal tribe. So it comes from your mother, but my mother's my white parent and my father is my Cherokee parent. And he was just never present in my life. He was just kind of like a specter that haunted my childhood. And so to think that I was like a Native person was really difficult for me, because I thought to think that would be to accept like the worst parts of him as like a part of myself. So it was really complicated. And I don't think I really started processing that until college, when just things came up and I wanted to feel that identity for myself and like make it my own.
Yeah. And I one thing that sort of differentiates us, I mean, there's a few sort of things, but, obviously we are white as well, that's part of who we are. And so it's like kind of a thing of like, what part, is, there, and like, and being American as well. And part of all that, and like what that means, being proud of that, but also, have problems with that, and where that sort of lies. But the sort of difference is like, I feel one of the things is that you probably don't get with your last names, obviously Fourkiller, and so people know immediately once
Almost
hearing
immediately,
that it's a the Cherokee. People know Cherokee names, so they know it's a Cherokee name, or they know it's a native name at the very least. Yeah, and so immediately that's something that is a barrier that you don't have to cross necessarily. That it's not sort of questioned because you have that name almost.
And then they start to attribute like any kind of physical markers, even though you know. Yeah. I mean, Indigenous people come in all shades. We don't really have to like say that, but they start to attribute any kind of like physical attributes that they are, you know, giving to a Native person in their mind to me. And then
so
like,
they pointed out like what is this?
Exactly.
Get that.
The cheekbones.
The cheekbones.
Are a big thing. Yeah, they're like, you have such beautiful cheekbones. It's amazing. I'm like, thank you. I'm actually just here to drop off my UPS package.
So it's because I mean, I think so when people see you and don't know your name, would they assume that you're Native? No.
Oh, no. I don't think so.
I don't think,
People often assume that I'm like European.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Like, not like I mean like a white person who has ancestry from Europe. I mean like European.
Like actually?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's happened several times. And I'm like recently. And I'm like, no, and they'll be like, where are you from? And I'm like, you know, and I'm like, here. And they're like, no, where are you really from? I'm like, here, like literally here.
Yeah. So what is your other ancestry there? It's, you know,
we are like Welsh, Irish, French.
Okay. So similar. Yeah. All mine's pretty much English and there's some, I mean, Thomas is a Welsh name. And there's some German, but yeah, it's so like, so that's something that you didn't have to cross and like, whereas mine differently is matrilineal, you know, it's my mother's grandmother. And so it's, I do have the sort of matrilineal line of, you know, Cherokee mothers since I guess time immemorial.
In a really special way because you're so close to your grandmother. Yeah,
no, I grew up with my grandmother in the household. And so first, you know, 20 years of my life, 2 decades, I spent with her being there. And it's somewhat difficult of like, I mean, she learned, her first language was Cherokee, you know, and we were kind of talking, we've talked about this before, that was, you know, taken away from her when she went to a white school and everything. And, they hit her, you know.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
And they would make you pick a new name if you didn't have one already. Yeah.
And so it was, and so like from a young age, she grew up in a Cherokee community, but then they moved, from her father's job, and, they had to go to a white school there. And,
where was she?
She was from Yonkers was the name of it. And it's a town that, got flooded. They moved all of the people out because they built the Fort Gibson Dam and it flooded the area.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So it essentially dispersed so just another way of like they built their roots somewhere.
Exactly.
And then they're like,
and then take it away from them
for progress or whatever. And so that community got spread out amongst different people. So Locust Grove area, different areas that they went and everything. But that's where their church was and everything that they went to. But they went out and worked on he worked for the railroad, my great-grandfather. And so that's why they went there. But so, I mean, so she was away from her community essentially from a younger age. And they would go and have church services and things and out with family members and things, but that's not where they, she primarily lived. And so she eventually lost the language and everything.
Right. And it's like, also you internalize that, like that is a bad language. It's like a savage language that you should not be speaking. And if you want to, be a person in this world, you're not going to speak it or to honor it.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And so people, only now has it become somewhat, it's, fashionable again and people are,
It is fashionable. It is almost like like a statement piece, like you're like, oh yeah, also I speak Cherokee. And I love that people do speak Cherokee and that there's a way to, but yeah, again, my grandfather, whom I did not grow up around, but his first language was Cherokee and he did always like a struggle with English, I think in a really profound way.
Yeah.
Whereas like the language of the colonizer is like the one, and of my family, whom I love, the family I was raised with, my white family. That's the language like that means the most to me, because it's like what my work is about, or like what my work is in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated thing.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, part of me would love to learn the language. I've always wanted to do that, but
it's a hard one to learn.
It's a hard one to learn because it's very descriptive and very, it's just different, you know.
And syllabic. And
yeah.
You really like, I had a friend once, I said something and she's like, "You're speaking Cherokee like a missionary." And I've never been so devastated in my life. I think I just said something like quick.
Yeah.
I won't repeat on the pod. But,
yeah.
And yeah, she was like, I mean, it was a joke, but it was also like, I'm sure true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a cadence to it, which, and it's like, people say that all the time of like in which you, I mean, there's situations where people, a language that they learn is in the sort of cadence that their other language, like people who speak German, but like they're French and it's in a French. And so it's like, there are these interesting, like kind of, that each language has its own sort of rhythm and cadence to it that you have to learn, or it does sound like you're saying it with the other cadence, which is very fascinating. I mean, languages are very fascinating in that way. But yeah, no, and I love we get to talk, because I mean, I have yet to talk about my Cherokee ancestry or heritage on the pod. Because I mean, I just haven't had.
You haven't had any.
And I need to. And then this season, I hope to have some of the other Cherokees and people that I know and everything on, and we can talk about that. Because I mean, it's a unique experience, and it's something that like is somewhat tough to talk about, you know, and especially, you know, it's. I feel like I have to talk about it amongst Cherokees and not like it's so odd to talk about it with someone who isn't.
Oh yeah.
And it's because they don't understand it, and it's like, but they like, it depends. Some people want to know, and then other people don't. And it's a situation where, you know, people, in my experience, since I don't have the name, because it is matrilineal and everything, so I don't have the name there, and I, you know, I'm what I guess I call it white passing now, even though I'm mostly white, but whatever. But I have that ancestry. I mean, and not even that ancestry. I am Cherokee because of even the matrilineal line. I am.
You're acting like you are actually telling me like, yeah, my great grandmother was like a Cherokee princess when you had an elder in your house, like your whole.
And that's the thing though, is like they feel that, and you feel almost like, I had an elder in my home and I know these things, but it still feels like, because people don't treat you that way. Like, and so I'm out in the world and no one, like, I have to, you know, tell people that I'm Cherokee, or I have to tell, and it's something that's a different experience than what other, and it's odd. And it's not like I would trade it, because I've seen the horrible racism my grandmother faced, and even my mother to a certain extent, that it was just like, that seems like awful. And it's, and I hate to, you know, I mean, like it was, and then to constantly always be asked, what are you? And what, and you know, and
how much, which is such a terrible question.
And so that was always something that I, you know, when I say these sort of things that I go through, it's like, it's with an asterisk that like, I do think that you get to almost in a sense that you're almost like a spy. I always feel that way. Like whenever you're in a group of people and then like a Native issue comes up or whatever, and they think they're amongst white people sort of talking, and it's just like, oh boy. And you sort of get to see how some people sort of think.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk. I mean, yes, I just keep saying, but really it's like, Indigenous issues are so interesting, especially because they come with the added layer of like discussing blood quantum. Which
discuss blood quantum?
We can. It's just like such an old, racist issue, and upsets me because like, let's just like say back in the day, a white child could be adopted into the tribe and be as much Cherokee as you and I are because they have cultural proximity. Mm-hmm. They might not face racism or colorism, but they do hold like the culture that we hold like inside of them. And I think it's difficult for people to understand that. Like you could be, yes, like bloodline is important in a lot of ways, like especially for like ancestral, like passings down and things like that. But it's not the most important thing.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. Part of me, like I sometimes say it, and I know that people have issue with it and everything, but it's almost like I feel like when I say I'm Cherokee, people sometimes look at me in a way of like, oh yeah, like Elizabeth Warren or something is Cherokee, and I feel like the simplest way to cut through a lot of that is sort of stating a blood quantum of sort of being like, no, I'm a lot more than that. And it's just that I don't look it,
Oh, I've had to do that many a time. Yeah.
And then, or I refer to my grandmother as my full blood Cherokee grandmother. And it's like, but I'm like, but she's so much more than that. Like, I don't like, and then I feel like I'm would be offending like that sort of thing. And it's one of those things, but then it's like, why do I have to refer to her as that? And it's like, but it's the easiest way for me to sort of like, to differentiate in like my experience versus what these people who are 164th or whatever, I've heard people say, these things and stuff. And it's the easiest way to be like, there is a difference there. And like, or a difference from, I've heard, my great grandmother was, Cherokee or whatever the family story is. And I do think it's somewhat of a different thing with Cherokees versus every other tribe because of how prevalent this family story is.
Right. Like, I'm not sure. I would love to look into the history of that actually, maybe for an essay. But like, how did Cherokee become like the placeholder for, they don't say like, I have Native lineage. They're like, yeah, I heard we were Cherokee. They don't say like, I heard we were Kiowa. I heard we were Sac and Fox. I heard we were Yuchi. They say, I heard we were Cherokee.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting thing. And I'm not sure how that came about because I've heard it everywhere. Everywhere.
Run into it all the time.
Literally, when I went to a writing conference this summer, someone said it to me. Someone outside of the writing conference, but still like, oh, where are you from? Oh, they saw my last name maybe on my card. I was like, oh. And then in Alabama, where I went for grad school.
Well, yeah.
Too. But that's, that's like in the, but it's different, like Oregon.
Well, they disperse out. I mean, like I would say it's because of the fact that, the Cherokee's the second or most large tribe, but depending on how you sort of look at it, it's us and Navajo that have the most population wise. And so, and it makes sense that there's a lot more at large Cherokee. So I think if you kind of spread out, it's happened. So I guess it somewhat makes sense. And perhaps has something to do with, that we don't have like a cutoff of, blood quantum or whatever, like some things do. Yeah. So people can be 100 and whatever, 200 and whatever.
I think the largest one is like 1 over 10,000.
Yeah.
I think that's like, which,
yeah.
I also think about a lot this. What was I going to say? I'm so sorry. My thought fled me.
Well, there's also the other part, just that because of the trail of tears, that you have people, you cover a large swath of America, of even whenever our ancestral lands were, but then all the whole thing that you get people all throughout that whole area being like, my great grandmother evaded it, and did, like, you have all these stories of like, it came through here, so maybe that's where, and so you just have all these family stories of like, there's people up in like Missouri and everything. It's like, oh, well, one route came through here, and it's like, okay,
That's true, but I feel like it. Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I just think that it should be like.
But there are other tribes that went through the trail.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the 5 civilized tribes, like or the quote unquote 5 civilized tribes.
Yeah.
I wrote about grave houses like along the trail for an article like a year or two ago, I think.
Yeah.
And interviewed like Muskogee Creek, Chickasaw, a few others.
Yeah.
People who worked like in the tribal system. They're like, yeah, we had our own Trail of Tears. I'm like, I know. That's not what I'm saying. I'm so sorry.
Wow. Yeah. That's, yeah. I mean, it's part of who you are and everything. And it's a tough thing. And I wanted to talk about how you sort of, balance your, because you do love America and the system of America and everything in some respects, but then you have to balance that with that Native identity, right?
Yeah, I think I've grown probably more against the system as like I've aged. But I'm also like, again, like the luckiest person in my family, and I feel very fortunate to be here, like with all the freedoms that I do possess.
Yeah.
And voting was always really important in my family, and became important to me like in college, especially. And I interned for like an election board. Actually, when medical marijuana was on the ballot was the summer I was there, and they were like, "You are like here at the perfect time.
Yeah.
It has never been this busy."
Yeah. Bernie was
running. But yeah, it's hard because it's like all of, like we talked about, even with like college, like I feel so fortunate in so many respects. And then I have to balance it with like the actual cultural critiques that I'm making, that I try to make in my work.
Yeah. It's somewhat difficult because, like, I mean, there's parts of you that, you know, loves America. I mean, like, and I think another similarity, I think one of the things that we have a lot in common was this early fascination with government, with American sort of history and everything. Like as a kid, I had this old encyclopedia. I think it was made in like the 70s or whatever. And it was like this encyclopedia of American history. And it was like all this stuff. And I used to, you know, like, all that was the iconography, I think, was so very kind of strong, and Americana and all that things. That was like that was a
love a good symbol.
Symbol.
Yeah, love a good symbol.
That it was kind of very, very fascinating and everything. And I'm still very, fascinated by the idea of the story that we're kind of told of these, you know, people coming together for these grand ideas to create a better sort of society. And then later, of course, you learn, wait a second, you know,
right. But it's still like such an appeal. I think it's a prevailing thing for a reason. Like it's such a seductive idea that like you could gather people together and come out and make something better than what you had before. Yeah. But community organizing is hard. Yeah. Also, my kind of proposal, because we had to do a research proposal when I was applying to PhD programs, which I didn't end up going to, but did get accepted. And I was talking about like the American myth of like the self-made man in juxtaposition to like Native stories of like warriors and like metaphysical things, and how those two things are like fundamentally the same, but one is accepted and one isn't. Like there's an exceptionalism that we're ready to accept with like a white frontiersman that we aren't with like a Native person.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. And that was for what? What did you say?
We had to do like a personal statement and then like a research proposal. So what are you interested in scholarship wise? And in your PhD kind of path.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good kind of segue to your academic work and everything. So of course we went to college together, and we were in honors. We talked about. And you were, so whenever I knew you, you were a political science
poli-sci
major. And so that's where did that change in the sort of how and why did that change? I never really got that.
Yeah, so I had always been like, in my creative expression was always like writing, and that's something I really loved. Never thought, like in my mind that was trained from early childhood, it was that like the way you are successful is if you can support yourself monetarily. It doesn't matter like really anything else. Like if you have a good steady career with benefits, that is like what I want for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And like, yeah, I want you to be happy, but like you have to be able to eat and you have to be able to, do these things.
That's a huge push here in the middle of the country of,
It's practical.
It's practical. Yeah. You have to survive. You have to find the thing that's and there's very few paths that are out there to make, money. Essentially most people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly.
And whatever jobs they can find. And so it's, there is a find something and everything, but I'm glad that you at least had the caveat of be happy,
Yeah. I mean, later, like once you get a good job, I want you to be happy. Yeah. But, so I thought I would go to law school, like many political science majors do, or do some kind of like scholarship with an MA. So I at least could go get my PhD and teach, and that might not like make me the most money, but I would at least have a job. And then I got this crazy idea. I had put together a set of short stories for my honors capstone. And they looked good and I liked them. And I was like, I'll just apply to a couple MFAs, like which are Masters of Fine Arts and Creative Writing programs. Yeah. And I'm only going to apply to the ones that will pay me to be there. And I'll send them off. And I won't get into any of them, obviously, because my writing's, I think it's good. Like, I'm not like.
So is that the first time you've done things like that or on that level? Or have you just never had anyone seen them or in that way?
I think, I would read some out loud to like my friends if I felt like it was a particularly good passage. But like, I wouldn't, it wasn't like I was like sending it off to any kind of, not to the hot off the presses or anything. It was something I cultivated.
Because I remember, you would write things and different things.
That would be like my little thing. Like, when we would get to do like a free for all, like creative project, I would just always write something. And that felt really good to me to do because I'd been doing it on my own for a long time. So I sent it off. I got into all the programs I applied for, and the University of Alabama offered me the most money. Yeah. And so I went there.
Wow.
And people were like, you're a really good writer. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, I know. It was like a fluke, right? And you're like, no.
Wow.
You're good at this thing. And I'm like, wow, to be good at a thing that I really love.
So what was it like down in Alabama? How long were you there? 2 years? Is that or
3
years? Okay.
You can do an optional 4th year with the same funding. But I was ready to go. I like to be able to write.
Because that's the time I don't know you so much. Like, that's where
I disappeared.
disappeared, yeah. And like, around that time, I feel like it's when you went off social media and or was that after?
I did, probably right before I'm just not a very social media, but now I have to be a little bit. But I deleted everything. No one could find me. I didn't even have my website back then. Yeah. And I went down to Alabama to write and
And where in Alabama is it?
Tuscaloosa.
Okay, and is that up in the?
That's like north.
I've been through that area, but I'm trying to remember. Okay.
It's a big football town.
Okay.
So that kind of disoriented me because it was like a huge school and it was all about football, and I don't know anything about football.
Yeah.
And it's
so I've always wondered how those big like on football days, what do you do?
Oh, you don't leave your house. And like, especially if you're like, for my first year, I lived like on 20th Street, which was like a couple blocks from the stadium. So I would just lock myself in.
Oh God. Because there's people walking all around and parking probably everywhere. Yeah.
And they're tailgating. Yeah. If you can get out, it's a great time to go grocery shopping. If you don't live like near the
but then I'd be fear people were going to be parking and blocking my way or whatever.
That could do that. Yeah, they could do that too.
Spots or stuff. Yeah.
And if you have like a street parking situation, you can park your car there, and like for your apartment building, if you have a second space, you can sell.
Wow.
And people will pay like hundreds of dollars for it, so they don't have to.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah. I never ran that scam, but because I was just like, nobody talked to me on game day.
Yeah.
And then I would have like students that I tutored through the writing center because I was the assistant director of the writing center for 2 years, which I really, really enjoyed. And they would be most of the time they were very happy because if you didn't know, Alabama was a pretty good team apparently.
And you're not really around, because now I'm sort of remembering there's not anything sort of around that area either, right? Is there? I mean, it's just kind of that city.
Yeah, like an hour away is Birmingham, but that's like, it's like if you need to go to the very small airport or something.
Because it's a little different of like, I mean, there's communities around different around here. Like you can it's not even a short drive to other big sort of, towns and cities and stuff.
But it's it's just Tuscaloosa, and on either side is kind of just like, besides to Birmingham. But when I was driving back to Oklahoma, it's just like kind of desolate.
Yeah. Wow. So you were just there writing. So what did you end up doing with the stuff that you wrote there?
Some of it has like found its way onto like the internet through a variety of essays.
Okay.
The big chunk of it is like in my novel.
Okay.
That's still percolating, but hopefully I'll be querying soon for agents. And but most of it has either like, it's probably a half and half split. So some of it has made its way onto other things, but then a lot of the things that I've done recently are just like brand new from my brain. Yeah.
So the pandemic had to have happened right in the middle of that, right?
Yeah. So it was March 2020, wasn't it? So that was the spring of my first year. Yeah. So for like the next 2 years, I was basically online, which felt fine to me because I have like hermetic tendencies. So just a little.
Yeah,
I like that. Kill all of my social media and like stay in my room and write. That's kind of who I am. But and then my father passed in October 2020, which I was like, and the pandemic? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, geez.
It was a big year.
It was a big year. And so when your father passed, you ended up, you came back to Oklahoma just briefly, correct?
Just briefly for a week to do the traditions. So we buried him the Yuchi way because my siblings are Yuchi and his first wife is Yuchi. And my Cherokee family now, like my father's family, like all my elders are people who are not blood related to me. So they're not very traditional. So they kind of like looked at us a bit askance when we were like, we need like this and a fire and a quilt, which are true. That's not me making that up. But we need all those things.
Yeah. Wow. And then you had to go back and...
Then I went back immediately and just went back to work. Yeah.
While you're sort of going through sort of the emotions of that.
Oh yeah. I don't think I wrote anything for 6 months or so. Which I didn't expect because, again, my father and I weren't close, but that grief kind of like, I think the kind of collective grief that we were all going through and then that layered grief on top of it kind of just knocked me flat. And that was really hard for me because, I don't know, my upbringing prioritizes work and like getting things done, even if you are like sick and poor and tired. So to not be able to work or like to do the work that I felt like I should be doing was really hard for me. That might have been a third grief in itself. Yeah.
It's got to be almost, like we say, symbols are very important. The symbolicness of losing a father would be. Yeah.
And to what I felt was to my tie to like being Native,
That's the difficult, man. When I lost my grandmother, that was something that you almost sort of, oh well, now it's me, that, and I know that had to be something similar to when she lost her mother, and it's something that you kind of feel like slowly you lose these ties in some sort of way, and that and the one sort of cultural tie that you had. Is lost, forever. And then it's up to you to sort of, I don't know, pick up the pieces.
When my grandfather died our junior year, that felt like losing my father. And when my father died, my first year of grad school, or my second year of grad school, that felt like losing a culture or like a tie to a culture or a bridge, maybe.
Yeah. Because it's essentially, it's gone, like you you can, it almost at times like you have to fight against the idea that it almost seems artificial now. Like that's where I often, even though I, work for my tribe and everything, and I have still that,
you still have those connections. Yeah.
That it seems like now I don't know. Like it's not as
holding
physical.
The gate open for me.
Exactly. And, and no one to sort of talk to, now that I, learn more about different things, and everything, I could talk to my mother to a certain extent, but even, all hers is through, her grandmother and different things, and she's lost. So it's like, it's this weird sort of thing of like, that is part of our thing, just different conversations. And it does feel like you've lost something very important. And I know that's a sort of common thing with natives when they lose an elder, of like it feels like part of that is gone.
Also, we've lost the ways in which that we were taught to grieve, and like the funerary traditions that might have helped. Yeah. Because we grieve in a strange way in America. Like it's very streamlined. It's supposed to be streamlined.
That's true. Yeah.
But grief's not like that.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah.
I wish I could check off boxes. Like I'm a Virgo, but I don't know a lot about astrology. I'm just adding that in.
No, yeah. Well, I guess we're both Virgos.
We're both Virgos.
I don't.
You're 2 days. You're 2 days my elder. Yeah.
I'm more Virgo. Yeah.
You're more Virgo.
But do you agree with all that stuff?
With astrology?
Yeah.
I think that I've been forgive me. I've been reading like a lot of Carl Jung and like Freud lately. Gross, I know. I think that just like what is the Enneagram what is that called? Like, or the INFJ thing? I think those are two different things. The MBTI, like the personality types, astrology, things like that. I think that it is incredibly helpful to put labels on things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do I agree? I think I am like a prototypical Virgo, but I think that is probably because my mother is like a prototypical, she's not a Virgo. She's a prototypical Virgo in like a lot of ways. So
that's where I think like, I have a hard time with the Virgo sort of thing because of, it seems to discount my creativity. Right. Like I feel like we're both very creative and it seems in all the things seem to be like so analytical and I'm like,
you have no fun. You don't like color.
And it's like, I don't know that seems, I take somewhat offense to that a little bit of like, I mean, certainly there is part of me that's very like, I am what bossy or whatever. And I'm very, detail oriented. Yeah. Like there are parts of that is like accurate, but it's still very much like that. When you look at it from that perspective. Yeah. I mean, I'm a perfectionist. I think that is a very big part of my identity, but but still I think it takes away some of that. And it's also people aren't, I just feel like it's another way of putting, that it's another way of like being like, here's your little lane and boxes and people want to organize everything in different ways. And it's like, the beauty of the world is the gray, is the sort of nuance. Is the nuance. And I think that so many people want to be put themselves in a box and put a label on them. And it's like, I can't get behind that. And I don't know why they want to. Like, why would anyone take a label and be like, and that's me? And cause like so much just put on you as a society anyways, that you have like maybe you get like 3 things that people look at you with on first basis. you get 3 things that people can kind of do. And so that's so bizarre that people would be like, I want personal traits of mine to be one of those 3 things, not, a label that's sort of in some sort of way, a word or whatever.
Yeah. I think like you, I am of 2 minds. If it helps you become like more self-reflective, great. But if it becomes a thing that limits you and puts you in a box, don't do that.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
pretty simple stuff there. Yeah. No, I agree. I have some sort of issues with like just all of that things. I think things are a little bit more.
Have you not done the personality test?
But we mean like a Myers-Briggs sort of thing?
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, I've done a, I think they called it a, one time for my internship, whenever I did an internship.
Oh, yeah, when they make you be like a beaver or like a cat or something.
So
thing.
mine, it was called a DISC assessment. And so it's very similar to like a Myers-Briggs where like they kind of, it's, 4 things and it's like, what do you do? And it like that, it helps in a certain sense of being like, okay, like I do think that opened my mind in a really interesting way of like how different people operate. Like that was, it was something I didn't quite like have the language to understand different people of like, oh, okay, that is how some people look at the world. And it made a lot more, it made a lot more sense of like, oh, people really view things through an emotional sort of sense that was sort of eye-opening and shocking to me, because I always come to arguments or to things in general or to conversations from a logical perspective. And that does not help. And I'm like, oh, that's not what their emotion.
I learned a lot today, guys. I learned that people have feelings. No, I totally understand. I don't lead with my emotional foot forward either.
But like that was a bizarre thing of like everything's filtered through that. Like people don't
the whole lens.
People don't like step back and be like that's not what they're like arguing or in the thing about. Like it's they're in my head. It's like, if you want to win an argument with me, come with like the most
your
logical,
sources, yeah.
Come with the logic in which why you're doing this or why you think this is the most important thing. And I'll sit there and take a sort of step back and be like, oh no, you're right. Like I wasn't thinking about it through that lens or whatever. Now I understand why. And that's that's the way I've always talked to people. And so whenever it's like, oh, it's not that, and it's the fact that like their feelings were hurt or that they were, that they're thinking about it through them. Like that was somewhat of a thing of like, I'm like, well, somehow I'm the bad person by thinking not about emotions, but you're not a bad person for thinking about it like through yourself. Like, I think that's the worst one. I think these emotional people who only think about it through their own personal feelings are the bad ones. But somehow I'm the bad one for not thinking about their emotions.
You're the evil one.
Yeah. It's like, well, how about you stop thinking about your emotions?
Yeah. Stop having feelings, guys. Oh, you quiet? Where are your sources? Show me your logic plan now.
But no, so that was that. Yeah. So, I mean,
it's interesting.
Did that.
Yeah.
It's interesting perspective. And cause it's like, and so I get people like, but I'm also sort of near the middle, and then there's a few different things. That's part of it and everything. But then I know people like I have someone I work close with, and they're very analytical, and they're very and at times that and there's some people that you run into that are very much like that, and I understand them to a certain degree of like. That's the way that they sort of see things, and they don't mean ill intention when they say things.
Very blunt.
Very blunt and very like they're just saying facts or what, and like and they don't really know. And so some people are incredibly hurt by sort of things that in general of how in anyone who's like that. And like that's been something that I being in sort of two worlds with that, because I do think. A lot of my writing's about emotion and about sort of things. So I'm not like an emotionless person. So I'm like,
you just don't, you don't lead with that foot in a different way.
Yes. And so I think of those sort of two things. I have to sort of be like a person like, I understand where you're sort of coming from and that other thing, but I love being around some analytical people because they can sort of look at things from a removed sort of perspective. That I need, whereas like, and I respect opinions from people like that a lot more than people who have my feelings in best interest at times, because I can come to them with like, is this work good? Is this, and they would say it other than like someone who's thinking about, oh, will this hurt his feelings or will this, and because some people are really overly obsessed with that. Of like how would this person feel, and it's like that's not I don't need someone to tell me that this is good because I'm,
Yeah. And it makes you feel weird because you're like, I need you to know that I'm mature enough to like take it.
Yeah.
To take any like constructive criticism.
So from your writing, do you ever send it out to anybody that you, or do you just put it out in the world?
So sometimes I write for publications after I like pitch them. I've sent a few things in, like submittable is like a big thing for writers. Like you submit like a little essay or whatever.
Yeah.
And then a couple times people have asked me to write for them, which is fun. That always makes me feel special.
Yeah. But do you have any like friends or anything that review this stuff beforehand, or do you just?
Oh yeah. So if it's like a fiction thing, I'll send it to Sean because Sean is one who it's like you can trust that she's like telling you the truth. So if it's like bad or like something needs to be removed, I know she'll tell me.
That's good.
Yeah. It's just like I used to pose for her for like paintings and things, and she would like proofread. And it was like a very fun artistic service we had back and forth.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to have people of different sort of mediums and stuff. Yeah.
And then
someone you can trust their opinions with. Yeah.
Exactly. And if it's a publication, it has like an editor. And I'm always like, tear it apart if you need to. Like I want it to be the best it can be.
Yeah.
And I want to be on the internet and people be like, this is trash. Did anybody edit this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who do you think you are? That's like always my fear. No one's ever done that to me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. People are always very, very kind. And often I've gotten like several where they had to like go search for my email or my contact form just to send me a note that they liked the piece.
Oh.
And those are my favorite people.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
That is sweet. Yeah, I send things to. I mean, I always have Alex. Sort of, he's always an interesting perspective to things. And, a lot of times when I write,
yeah. Why didn't I get to play with this?
Yeah, no, sorry, you didn't get to do some interesting.
Just because I don't know how. That's really discriminatory.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Communication majors only.
Yeah. Now, and Alex isn't here right now. That's where we're recording it because he's up in Ohio, and so we have to.
Ohio.
Yeah. So we have to when he's here, we record a few different ones, behind the scenes look of how this happens, and so that's where he kind of gets mixed in with different things and all that. But you're going to be very early in the season. I think you're probably going to be the second episode of this new season. And so because I kind of wanted to have you on I want more sort of one-on-ones. We've done a few of those and everything, and it's fun. And I don't know, we didn't do too many wacky. I haven't done too many wacky.
We did have a wacky conversation in the mic chat.
Oh, that's true.
It was so good.
Yeah, check out our patreon.com/Cade Thomas for our mic check. We get to hear our
if you have any strong opinions about Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. Or Puss in Boots.
That's the place to go.
Yeah.
Or Janet Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah.
We covered a lot.
We talked quite a few different things there. So check it out and everything. So I mean, we talked about social media and everything. So that's something you've had to relearn
I'm bad at it. I feel like this is maybe something you will not know anything about. I don't have a TikTok.
Yeah.
But a lot of fashion trends and such come from TikTok.
Yeah.
Well, I was seeing everyone wearing these really cute white sneakers. And for me, I just need a shoe to be comfortable.
Yeah. I wear the same shoe until it wears out.
Yeah, until it wears out. I'm so bad about that. I wore a pair of Birkenstocks until it literally crumbled. And my mom's like, please, I did not raise you this way. And I was like what?
Well, to me, it's so odd that that people are obsessed with shoes. Yeah. That's so odd to me because I wear the same shoe over until it's worn out, and then I'm like, gotta get a new shoe.
I feel like I'm mostly focused. Yeah. When I see someone, it's like their jacket.
Yeah.
Or if I don't know, they're cool t-shirt, but I'm rarely looking.
Yeah, that's so bizarre because when people have pointed out, if I get a new shoe,
they're like, oh.
Or I used to wear, and I still wear them when it's warm out and when it's on the weekends in a non-professional setting. I wear Crocs, and I love Crocs. And I've wore Crocs through the dark ages whenever everyone thought they were the ugliest things ever.
Right, when everyone was like, Croc boy.
Yeah, and people made comments about it, and it's like
You're like, why?
Why are you looking at my feet?
Pervert.
Like, yeah. That was always the most, and I've said that to people, and people like, I don't know. Like, I've never, ever noticed a person's feet. I have no idea what you're wearing right now.
Socks.
Oh, yeah, I know. I
just want for the visual people out there.
We're both in our socks, right?
Both
We're
in our socks.
comfortably. The floor's pretty cold right now. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I think I have hypothermia.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, like we keep it cool because these things run and everything, but it's particularly cold outside that it's like, oh, we probably should have warmed it up instead this time. Or I should have at least worn my jacket in here.
Immersive.
Learning that now, but we're freezing for content right now.
Content.
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
Yeah,
we'll do anything for content. Within reason. No, cut that out. We're just doing anything for content. But yeah, these really cute white sneakers, and again, no, it's good. Because I usually also don't notice, but everyone was wearing them. I'm like, where are these getting these really cute white sneakers?
Yeah.
And Hannah Baird was like, it's like trending on TikTok. And I was like, should I get a pair? Not because I wanted to be trendy, but because I was like, they look really comfortable. So she went with me. We tried. I have a huge foot. We're like a size 11, 12 in women's. Which, I mean, for all you other big feet people out there, you might be like, that's not that big. Well, and usually they carry like a size 9 in most stores.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please. And they're like, you're a freak. So I tried on one of these, trendy TikTok shoes. And they were one on sale, which is why I got them.
Okay.
And they were so comfortable. But I've gotten more compliments on those shoes.
And they're just white shoes?
They're just white shoes, except I did spill a chai latte on them in Goodwill, and I almost started crying because I was like, my one chance at popularity is gone. But I've scrubbed them. They're fine. Okay. But yeah. Because what do it's like, what do I do? But yeah, people love them. They're like, oh, Autumn, your shoes. Autumn, your shoes. And I'm like, what about my heart?
Yeah.
What about my heart?
Yeah. Why did you say?
Am I just a good pair of shoes to you? Nice pair of shoes.
Yeah. Why did you bring up my last essay? Yeah.
I'm like, Autumn, Autumn, how's your email going? That's what you're like. Autumn, how do you feel now that your mom's adopted 3 children?
Yeah.
Just, I wanted to shout out the Boxcar children a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. That, it's weird compliments of when people say, like I said, I never understood shoes and all that. And I've so rather people compliment my work, but then whenever I do not handle those compliments.
Yeah. You're just like, you're like, thanks.
Thanks. I mean, like, here's the little secret here. I love them, but I don't know how to respond.
You store them in your heart, but you're like, when people say them, you're like, thanks. Yeah. And they're like, Cade.
Yeah. They're like, why weren't you like? And I'm like, and there are people like, oh, he doesn't like them because he's like so awkward about it. And I'm like, no, I absolutely love them, but not in the moment. Like later.
Yeah. When I'm later, replaying the day.
Yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm like, that was a really good compliment. That's gonna get me through some things, but not in the moment. It is kind of like, stop, please.
Not to like bring it back to Crocs, but Crocs, please sponsor us. Do you have any like charms you put on? Are they gibbets?
No, I never did that.
You could get a platform Croc. And be even taller than you are now.
See, why would I want to be taller than what I am?
So you could tower over everyone you come across with your charm. I saw. Yeah, I think you should get a charm, some charms.
Some charms through there. Yeah, I mean, that used to be a thing, and then I guess it's still, people are
still into it.
Yeah.
Crocs are coming back.
Which I always knew that they would. I mean, like everything was going
You're
to come
the tastemaker.
Well, like, here's the thing. There are a few things that I'm ahead of the thing, but it's like, I don't have the influence or the money to do that.
Right.
And it's never the right time. It's way before. But I'm like, it's going to come back around. So the Crocs were something that I never stopped wearing Crocs.
Right.
Because I never stopped.
Which is, I I think is really admirable because yeah, it's hard to be like, I love this thing that everyone despises.
And people think it's a statement or something, and it's not like, it's like, no, I like it.
You're
it's
just
like,
wearing your shoes.
It's comfortable for one thing. Like, since when it's like, I don't want to, I don't make fashion sort of statements or whatever. Like, I just wear what's comfortable. And that, and Crocs are comfortable. And they're also, I kind of like the look of them. Like, I wouldn't wear something that was hideous. And I think it's interesting.
I like a clog. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that, like, you know, I drive a Beetle, one of the new Beetle things. And so I've always loved Beetles. And there's just different, like, I do like some aesthetic sort of things and all that.
Right.
I was very into mid-century, and then it became
mid-century modern. Yeah. Everyone's talking about it.
And now everyone's sort of, and like, I was so into, like, there's a district here in Tulsa, people know. I'm like, oh, if I get a house, it's going to be in that. And then now everyone's bought it because it's these mid-century homes, and they're exorbitant prices and everything. And I'm like, no one was caring about this 10 years ago whenever, like, and then like,
you have to stop thinking these things or people are going to take your thoughts and make them famous.
Well, I think like, okay, we just ride out the wave because then they're going to, but I also know mid-century, like I know an idea of, like, I do know some sort of, I do think I could have maybe been an interior designer or something of that, or an architect of some sort.
They can't see this, but you have so many art pieces on your wall.
Thanks. Yeah. But I don't think that mid-century will go out of style. There'll still be people that like it, it's classic, it's clean, it's elegant, but still earthy and vibrant. And so it's not something that the trend may die, but it will never be, ooh, gross. It will be kind of like, oh, vintage, or like, oh, interesting, but it will never be, ooh, gross, like farmhouse is becoming that.
Ooh, shiplap. Yeah.
And these different, like, there's people, these stupid houses that put in the sliding door, and I'm like, oh my God.
The barn, like,
the barn, yeah.
Yeah. What? You want to live in a barn now? They're making poverty cool.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this stuff, people don't even know this stuff's is going to go out, and like, and you can just see it, and it's like they're I don't know. Or the painting, they're painting bricks white now, and everyone's painting over these brick things, and that it was literally just like 7 years ago that people were like, oh, why did people paint over this beautiful brick, and exposed brick was in style, and now what are they doing? It's back in style just to paint right over it, and it's just like, oh, we're just repeatedly in an ebb and flow of paint over brick, remove it, paint over it, remove it.
That is the cycle that we're stuck in America.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have an addiction to house hunters a little bit. Because I like that they have a budget of like $2 million and they're like 2 beekeepers. And I think that's kind of like, I think that's beautiful. But also I love that they
brings up a lot of questions though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I always tell people I would be excellent at choosing the couples for house hunters because I know a weirdo. Like, I feel like I have, you can
screen the people.
I can screen them, and they're always so weird, and they always don't like each other. Yeah. I'm like, why don't you just buy 2 different houses, split the $1 million, go your separate ways? But nobody wants to hear that.
I would just like,
doctors don't want you to know.
You're the host, and then here's option 3.
Here's option 3, divorce.
Divorce. And you each keep this. Yeah.
Judge Mathis is actually right there, ready to sign some papers.
Yeah. They're like, oh, okay. And then at the end, they're like, I really like option 2 with the patio and everything. But option 3 has kind of tantalizing a lot.
Autumn really sold option 3 in a way I didn't expect. That kid has pizzazz.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no, it's crazy world, because that's the wrap up of that. We have I have a question sent in from frequent co-host of the show, Alex Clare.
Hi, Alex.
Hello, Cade Friends. I'm a huge fan, been watching since day 1. But I just had a quick question. I'm an amateur writer, and I was just wondering, what do you do to get over your writer's block? Thanks.
What do you do to get over your writer's block?
I have no idea, Alex. When you find out, please call me. No, I'm just kidding. So I have a couple tips for that. One is like a brain dump. So Sometimes you feel paralyzed looking at like the same blank Word document.
Yeah.
So you just close your laptop, you brain dump, whatever, even if it's just like a couple words of like what you're thinking about.
So what, you put it in a notepad or you put it
Yeah, I put it in a notepad. I would go like full non-digital here. Get out the pen and paper, even if it's just like a Post-it note. Dump what you want to, get up from your desk or whatever your writing space is and go do something else. I never like to just sit. Well, I do sit and toil a lot. But anything that removes you from that space and removes you from like the screen with just the blank page is always really helpful.
And that's scary.
Just looking at the abyss.
Yeah, I don't. I write things, of course, too, and everything. And I mean, you seem to write quite a bit, and a lot and everything. So I mean, it's fascinating to hear that you also have sort of those times and everything.
I don't think I ever have like where I can't write anything. It's just like where I can't write the thing I want to write. So if I can just get out a few words, and I'll go do something else. I found it like I lived in my hometown for a few months before I moved recently. And that was really difficult. I feel like I needed to like get out of there to write. But I would just go on a walk and I would look at nature. And if I couldn't write like the thing I wanted to, I'd just be like, here's an observation. Here's my journal. I journal a lot, which I find very helpful to my writing practice, actually. Yeah.
So you do you write in different spaces, or where's your typical writing space?
So for a time it was like at the kitchen table because that was my only desk. Now I have like an office space that I go to. But recently I've been going to like the library.
Yeah.
Or like a coffee shop. I'm not like a coffee connoisseur. Like I will drink. I found like this gross Black & Decker. I'm sorry, this is a gross confession. I found this like gross Black & Decker like pot at my dad's house that I subsequently like made a cup of black coffee and just like drank it, and it tasted fine to me. So
this has been in the house for a long time.
For a long time. I didn't I like washed it, but I was like, I don't think you can like wash everything.
Yeah.
And it was good. I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
I don't really understand like coffee. Yeah.
I don't really understand. I've started getting
into
more coffee. And
do you
everything.
Make like espresso and stuff?
No, I don't. I see, like, I that's when I realized I sort of got too far, is when I went and got my own coffee maker and started to do things that like, oh no, this has gone way too far. And so I've backed up. Now I buy coffee from things in local houses. And I love trying. I like the taste of coffee, which is something that like it's different. Like, and I didn't quite realize I was going to sort of grow into that but I've always loved tea. I love the taste of tea. So there's also, tea is a big love of my life.
I agree, because coffee feels like functional to me in a way. Like I'll drink a coffee. It doesn't matter where it's come from or like, what it tastes like.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. And I like iced coffee. That's where I think it's a little bit different than some. I do love a cold coffee.
But if I'm going to like try something new, it'll be like a tea. And that I can feel like I have a better sense of like, is it good or not?
And so the difference, so like one of the things I don't like, I'm not like an alcohol drinker. I don't do that because I think it ruins every single thing that it's in. But people love the taste of it, or they love, I guess, the effect of it. I can't get behind it. I do not understand it. It offers no functional thing. I don't like being drunk. So I don't, because I don't like being in control of my body.
Lack of control,
my mind. Like, I mean, that makes absolutely no sense to me. To like, why would you want to lose your capabilities of your body and your mind? That's all we have. That's all we have.
I don't understand. Yeah, I noticed this the other day when I went to eat with my friend, and we were like at an early lunch hour because we're both early birds, and I was like, people are having multiple drinks and then going back to work. I would be crazy. Like I would get nothing done. I need a nap.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Perhaps they're more practiced, but it still felt wild to me.
But at the end of the day, like, still, it doesn't taste good to me.
No.
Like
It's like poison.
It's like poison. Like it's your body like reacting to the fact that this isn't supposed to be in there. And like
this is a prohibition podcast.
That's where the thing of like I've never understood, but it's so ubiquitous. It's so
everybody wants to go for a drink.
Yes.
I'm like, can we go get some ice cream?
I know.
I love a sweet treat. Yeah.
Like go to a bakery.
Yeah. After dinner, I'm like, let's go get a sweet treat. And if whoever I'm with says no, I'm like,
who are they? It's like, I can.
Once my friend Hannah said, like, she's like, I had a root beer float today. I can't. And I was so, she's like, quit acting like that. I was so despondent. She's like, I'll take you to go get one. I was like, oh, what? So you can watch me eat an ice cream? It was really upsetting, but we're over it now. And now when I'm like, the other day I was like, let's go get a sweet treat. And she's like, okay. I'm like, oh, you're not gonna say no? I won't let it go.
Yeah, no, that's a shame. Yeah, that's always, but I do wish there were more things around that was like, or things people did that wasn't so much based around drinking and alcohol, or that like you could go somewhere, like there's just too many bars in my opinion, and too many things where that's like the center of the sort of experience. And I like personally, I love staying up late and everything, and I just wish more people.
I go to bed at 8 p.m.
Oh, so you're,
and I wake up at like 4:30 or 5.
So you're a morning person. So you don't have this. See, like I wish I was that, because like by the time everything sort of is opening and everything, and you can sort of go there before things, and
but everything here closes at like 8:30.
Yeah. And so like there's nothing open outside of bars and things. That's like, I just wish, and the fact that I work during the day, like everything's just open during like daytime and then they close. Like I'm pitching a change of things. I think that there needs to be shifts in which people work, and like everything's open 24 hours and there's 3 8-hour shifts, and that people pick these things, and there's 3 worlds that people live in. And that's how it works. And then like one's like your downtime, and then the other one's your sleep thing. And that way the world is a third less busy throughout the day, your shifts and everything that you do. Because I do think that I would be a lot more productive if I had like a night. I was able to do everything at a night. Yeah. That's just me. Though.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start that.
Well, I just think that everything would be like, that's a way of, the crowding would be less of a problem. Yeah. Sorry, to answer the question about writer's block. So you just tell us to write.
Write on paper and not.
If you have writer's block, just write.
Yeah, just write. Or to just like dump. I don't know. I feel like inspiration comes in so many like forms that you can go on a walk, you can watch a film, you can listen to some music, but like you have to remove yourself from the space. Yeah. Which doesn't feel like very conducive to writing, right? But like you will bring yourself back because you want to write, and that's really the thing.
It's difficult. So I mean, like I write mostly screenplays and stuff. I'm and so that's I go long periods without writing and things, and like being like having ideas, but then it's scary to put the thing on the actual paper, or like I don't exactly know what the reason that I wish I could understand why I don't just can't put it out, because like when I actually write I very little changes, like it's surface level little lines here and there, like in an editing process or whatever. Like it's actually the first draft outside of like I'll go read through everything again as I'm writing, and then like make edits and everything in that way. But I don't know, like what I'm saying, like for the most part I would say it's like 75 60-75% there from the first time I write it, and like so it's I'm very happy with when I actually do the thing.
Right.
But it's scary, and I feel like I have to have it all planned out in my head before I do it. And then it's like, but then there's the problem of like, if you have it too planned out, the spontaneity's lost.
Yeah. And the like passion in the play is gone.
Yeah. Because I've worked out whole films in my head of like, I'm like, but it's not there and I haven't figured it out just yet. And it's like, and I don't want to start writing because I haven't figured out this problem that's later, or like, in this third act.
You just got to write through it.
But I want to know so that I can work towards that means or whatever. And so I have to know certain things, but then finally I'll work it out. And then it's like, well, that's the project. And now it's no longer fun finding what it is. And so it's sad whenever it's like, you have to find that sweet spot of where I know the sort of broad strokes of it, but not every little detail where I can find interesting things throughout it. But I know the sort of end goal and everything. But so there's only a very short window in a project that it's like where I've gone too far and it's no longer fun. But no, I don't have any advice from writer's block. I wish I don't know. I don't really know what it is. I mean, the sad thing is to say just right, but that's also what I'm screaming in my head whenever I can't come up with something.
I feel that writer's block too, like part of getting over it is to accept that maybe this isn't going to get done at this moment and inspiration will come. So it's more like, don't get too in your head about it. Let yourself have like a moment of rest or like a period of rest and then come back to the project, because you never want to lose what brought you there in the first place.
And do you find yourself like, are you someone who you enjoy creating these, like that's what you view everything through is through creating, and like there's no like making this stuff is what drives you? Is that, would you say that?
I think, yeah, I'm in a way, like, I think I've lost a bit of that, like the play aspect of it. That really, as a kid, like my imagination and like, I let that like flow freely. And now I tend to like limit myself a bit. Not just for practicality matters, but I'm like, okay, like pull it back a little bit. Like that's too much. So yeah, I'm more so suffer from the fear that I will put everything into something, and won't have anything left. So like, yeah, I trim myself back too much. I'm also just like neurotic. So like, it's hard for me to have downtime. Yeah. I think even when I do have downtime, I'm thinking really deeply. And that's when I was a kid, my mom was like, what are you doing? And I would just be like thinking, and she was like, thinking about what? And I was like, everything. Like,
absolutely. That I 100%. That's
I lived in my head. That's what it was.
And it's still, that's working out things and like, I mean, it's constant of like stories and ideas, and I can pull that and use that in this way, and like, oh, that's an interesting thing. Is there any of these Rolodex of projects that I have in my head that would be useful in? And it's like, oh no, okay, that's going to go into this bin of maybe future things of working that out. So I mean, it's but like, but it's a detriment of like, I feel like, if I'm not doing something that it's a waste of time.
Right. And this is kind of tangential to Alex. Like, don't let yourself feel like play the comparison game about like a finished product, because I have so many quarter and half starts, so many, just in like the Word file and next to like the projects that are completed that I'm really proud of.
Yeah. See, and that's my thing is, different thing is like, I have to finish things like that's,
it's compulsion.
It's a compulsion, and so very few, like I have like tons of things in the idea phase, that in my head that hasn't ever been put down anywhere or anything, and tons of things that like could, if I just, did it or whatever. But, actually the things that I commit to and do, I feel like I have to get it to, once it gets out of the idea phase and into doing it, I do it, and that's always been I've never wanted to leave things out. So that's one of those weird stuff of mine that I do. Yeah. Well, so I did want to briefly talk on the, because so your Substack that you have, Dream Interpretation for Dummies, right?
Dummies in the Russian sense, as in like there's a Dostoevsky book called The Idiot. An idiot just means like an uninitiated person. Okay. Yeah.
And so people send in their dreams to you?
People email in their dreams and then I interpret them. Yeah. Yeah. Bi-weekly. And then
bi-weekly meaning every other week, or bi-weekly meaning twice a week?
Every other week. Sorry. Yeah, every other week. is this going to be the Substack? Yeah, every other week. And then sometimes during the week, I'll pop a little special thing.
That's fun. So essentially they're like, I had this dream and what does it mean?
Yeah, basically, okay. They'll describe their dream and they're like, can you help me? And most of the time like, yeah, sure. That's
fascinating. It's interesting because like you hear people talk about their dreams and stuff, and I'll tell you, and when I hear people, I don't remember a single dream.
Really?
Yeah. It goes like I think moments after waking up, like I'll remember it, but then my brain immediately and delete, and it's like starts to delete the files because it's not pertinent for what I guess the day is about to happen. And so that's like, I'm like, oh, that was an odd, and then it's gone. And it's just like an auto, I feel like it's a computer where it's just like auto deleting these things. And it's never whereas like never memories, memories and stuff is like all of a sudden something triggers it. I'm like, oh yeah, I completely forgot that happened to me. And it's like, in the recesses of my mind somewhere. Cause I do hide things away in compartments to, I don't know, I guess just move on and work on the task at hand. And so things pop up like, I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. But, that I can't access normally, but never once have I been like, oh yeah, that reminds me of a dream I had. I don't remember my dreams.
Funnily enough, a lot of my friends don't remember their dreams, which I think is hilarious because I'm like, can you guys send me something? And luckily I have like a full inbox usually of people who, because I think a lot of times people are like, I don't really like want to hear about your dreams. That seems boring, or they find them nonsensical. Whereas like I approach them from like almost like it depends, like a native spirituality lens and also like a psychological sense. Again, I've been reading a lot of Jung and like Freud. Freud's not my guy, but I like Jung. Yeah. I always like, he's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
His ghost, Carl Jung's.
So that, I mean, that's, I can see, I don't know, when people talk about their dreams, I'm not particularly all that like interested because it's so
well, sometimes they're like, I went to the post office. Whereas I'm like, tell me more.
Or it's just involving other people. Like, I don't know. I can't say people like, I had a dream about you. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that information. You
take it. Yeah. What if it's important? What if they're like, I had a dream you like fell down the stairs or something. And you're like, I guess.
Yeah. But mine's always like that. Yeah, I had a dream that you worked at the post office or something. And it's like, well, I don't like that story.
Hey, the postal workers are essential.
Yeah, but what am I supposed to do with that?
Go to the post office. They're like, we have a secret for you.
I go there and I see myself. The person
you see, oh, a doppelganger.
Yeah,
I love that. Doppelgangers are actually like largely considered death omens. Not spooky.
It is spooky.
I don't think I've ever met a person I'm like, you're my doppelganger.
Yeah, there's people, I every time that someone says, oh, you look like this person, I'm horribly offended.
Oh, me too. Well, I love Rosie O'Donnell, but I'm like, not every fat lady about town like looks like me.
Oh, and I got like people, because when I was in high school, I worked at Brahms.
I love Brahms.
I worked there for 2 years and everything.
Did you love it?
And sure. I liked the people there.
I know what you mean.
But it was awful. I so respect fast food workers and everything.
Oh, me too.
It's a good. I'm happy that I had the experience for that reason.
Your character.
Like, it built character. Yeah. And it was there's so many, like I worked the drive-through mostly, and I'd answer drive-through things, and it was when someone came up to the drive-through, it went bing. And it just constantly throughout like a shift, just hearing bing, and that means like here's another person that's about to unload their problem and what they need from you on you, and you had to do it fast and everything. So I would have nightmares of this bing at all times and have to be like startled, like what. It was this horrible stress-induced nightmares, and it took years to get over this this bell that would just be. Because it's in your ear. It's right in your ear. Yeah. Like, could it not have been like a different noise or what? I don't know. Probably whatever noise it would have been.
Your sleep paralysis demon is that you hear from the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's playing in your ear.
That's
so it's right there, and like because you'll be in the middle of a conversation, or you're doing something, or it's already hectic, and there's another thing, and you have to immediately answer it.
Yeah,
and it's like. It just was an incredibly, but that was not the story that I was trying to say. The point of what I was trying to say is that there was a guy who said that, and there was a few other people that was like said it. And it was like, oh, you look like John Candy, and it's just because I was fat. I was a fat kid.
That is so evil.
I know, and it was just like I don't know. And at one point, I had to play like a John Candy thing in a video thing that we did at school, and it was just like I don't think I look like John Candy.
You don't look like John Candy.
But it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
That's a thing that's like, I have to, I don't know. But so it was always inoffensive. Anytime I've ever heard it, it's like, oh, that's not.
Yeah. Do you want to hear
how people see me?
A traumatic fat kid memory from my past?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So in elementary school, we had like this, I don't even know, couldn't describe the play to you. Mm-hmm. It was like, it somehow was like the Nutcracker and like Santa Claus and like one other thing mashed together, I guess, so everybody could have a role.
Okay.
And there were two kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all these characters are in the thing together?
The Nutcracker, like Clara from the Nutcracker. Yeah. And then Santa Claus is also there.
Okay.
And his wife, you know how I know that? Because they picked the two chubbiest kids to play Mr. and Mrs. Claus. And I don't want to say his name because I want to dox him. But the little boy who played Mr. Claus, I was just like, I wanted to commiserate with him so bad, but I also didn't want to be like, hey, like, you're fat. And that's why we're doing this. Because I didn't know if,
Yeah. You don't know how people handle that.
And I remember like, they would send, because very small town, right? Very small town. They sent the high school girls down to do our makeup. And I remember one of them was like, we don't even have to put blush on you because your cheeks are already so rosy. And I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. And that kind of just like shaped me, I think. The other two the second fattest kids got to play Mr. and Mrs. Frosty.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot there.
Yeah. It's almost as bad as having to wear like women's business casual to middle school, like from JCPenney.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like have like when we walk past it, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
You just hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Yeah. So would you wear like blazers or no?
Like polos and like slacks, polos and slacks and
yeah, everyone else is wearing trendy things.
Like Kato, like what you would see, like a middle-aged mother, like going to the office. That's what I was wearing to like middle school. It was all. I mean, and I remember I had this shirt, and it was like blousey material. It was just humiliating. It was like maroon and had like speckles on it. Oh my god, yeah, and like pantyhose and things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, no, it was always, it was, you go to adult real quickly with everything, and it's.
I know. The polo shirt's really what haunt me.
Yeah. Well, polo shirts are not flattering for.
They're not flattering. Especially, I just had and they just accentuated how broad my shoulders are.
Yeah.
And I felt like I just was walking around like a linebacker the whole time. Linebacker in business cash, women's business cash, yeah.
No, yeah. The pants were always husky.
That's what they call it. That was so evil. I remember like you could go to like girls juniors, right? But they didn't have a girls plus. They just went straight to womanhood. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Fat kids of today.
Yeah.
You don't know how lucky. I'm just kidding. You're lucky you are.
Well, I don't know what they're dealing with. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to say that because what if they're dealing with worse?
Yeah.
But I feel like I shouldn't say that either because like clothes still really aren't accessible.
No.
But I feel like they might have a couple more options than we did maybe.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, because you couldn't go anywhere really and find.
No, it had to be like adult. There was no like.
Yeah.
And especially trend pieces like that everybody was wearing.
Yeah. I mean,
I
in my
think maybe
case,
that's what shaped us.
Yeah.
That we don't care about trends very much.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
That's probably absolutely true.
Yeah.
That like, I mean, my feet were probably too big, so I wore Crocs.
Yeah.
And I don't care about like to this day, like clothes and shoes. Like I don't care about.
Okay, is it comfortable? Yeah.
Is it comfortable?
That's what I always ask. Yeah. My mom would have to like.
It probably is. You're probably, yeah.
When we would go to church like every time the doors were open, basically. And I remember she would put me in a dress and I would just be like, oh my gosh, I was probably awful. For the poor woman, single mother, I was like, ugh. Like the whole time. And she's like, Autumn, please. It is not that bad. I'm like, oh, it's joking me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I bet that's accurate.
We just don't, we're floating by. Like, okay.
Because I never did. I mean, like, people wore American Eagle and Abercrombie and Finch, and I
had never been into. You don't even know the name.
Yeah. In the bird.
Yeah, I had never been into an Abercrombie and Fitch until like I don't know how old I was, and I was like, how do people go in here?
It's all dark.
It's like
it smells.
cologne.
Yeah, they pump it through the air. Yeah.
I was always like, I think I didn't go in there because I couldn't fit into any of the clothes, but also. I feel like I was just like, they would probably run me out, right?
Yeah. Well, I felt like I wasn't welcomed in that sort of thing and everything. And that was sort of something that and like, cause you think that they would like look at you like, well, cause they're
like
obviously,
like, okay. Yeah. What size do you need?
Yeah. And so that was something that, that I you'd see it and there'd be some sort of, pumping music that boom, boom.
Yeah. And then it's like half nude male models and you're like, oh my God.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm there with my grandmother,
Your grandma,
and I'm like, oh,
I'm in my polo
and I'm like, we just gotta breeze past this because this is my literal nightmare. Yeah. I don't know. But people did, and I guess that's how they get down the road of everything's trendy because they get put through that sort of.
They get put through that, like gristmill, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
I got to, yay, got to avoid that, I guess. Yeah. Well, that's fun. I'm glad that we worked through that.
The trauma. I feel better now.
I feel better.
Yeah.
I anything that you want to talk about else?
I feel like we've covered the gamut today.
Yeah, we covered quite a bit of things. We didn't talk about death, which I know you talk about. You talk about a lot.
I talk about death all the time.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I just feel like I think from writing about it and like talking to people about it that I'm writing about it kind of to like dispel the fear about it.
Yeah.
And also people get really, really awkward about it. And I feel like also like talking about grief and things like when I offer my condolences, I've learned to do so in a way that is like maybe different than other people. No, I'm not saying it's like a special way, but it's like something I've developed over the course of talking to a lot of people with their loved ones who have passed. And I think being able to talk to them like in a way that like, I recognize the mess. I recognize the anger and the fear and all of this. Yeah. They're like, oh, finally somebody's not like, oh, you'll get over it. Or like, I'm so sorry. He was a saint. I'm like, no, my father was not a saint. Yeah. He was like not a good father, but he loved Trivial Pursuit and he was really funny. And like all of these things to like balance them. But I'm a grim little creature.
Yeah, people like to avoid it. I think
they won't.
They don't like talking about it. I mean, it's because I probably because we treat it so weird here in America, and I think you talked about that. It's like it is just kind of like it's
a taboo almost, even though it's like the thing that we all do.
Yeah. And it's like it's so easily like you are almost discarded in some sort of way in the thing unless you're some sort of success and then you're deified. Yeah. But otherwise it's just like, and they're dead, and then that they have a day that you go and you cry, and then they put in the ground, and then you deal with that yourself. And
we don't like handle our dead with our hands or anything. I'm not saying that you like should embalm your loved ones, like DIY, but we don't do the same things that we did. And so we're so removed from that. And also again, I'm not like suggesting you take your kids to a funeral or something, but my first brush with like death was really early, and I got to go to the funeral because I was deemed mature enough to go. Whereas like, again, like don't traumatize your kids, but like we all, like sometimes someone you love dies, and that's really hard, and we should talk about it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And we shouldn't ignore it and be like, you know, you can't come to the funeral of this person you loved. Like, it's going to be a really weird funeral anyway, because everyone's going to talk around the thing and try to like sell you something.
Yeah.
And no one's going to be able to express their grief in like a really genuine way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing everyone goes through. I think I'm somewhat fascinated, but I think that's, you know, I mean, everyone goes through, I think that's a reoccurring thing in some of my works too. Certainly, you know, Ribbon was about that, and obviously Laura. But I think that, you know, life's something precious and everything, but death's not anything to sort of be scared about. It was never, you know, my grandmother was never scared of dying. My mother's not. I mean, no one was ever not around a household that's scared of dying
or aging.
Or
your
No,
is
they
anyone
don't.
in your family? Yeah, I feel like that's tied.
Good old.
Yeah, good old. Yeah, I feel like that's such an interesting thing that has occurred recently, because like I am kind of like religious about my skincare routine, but that's mostly because it feels like good to me, not so much. And I'm sure like there is some kind of internalized, like I'm sure I don't want to wrinkle or whatever. But like when I look at my mother and my grandmother, I don't go, ugh, you need Botox. I'm like, I love you so much. Like your face is so dear to me. Yeah. And if it were like stretched and contorted in a way that like made you look younger, that would make me afraid. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I would be like, you should look like what you've lived.
I 100% agree with that. Like I don't know. I mean, currently speaking, I mean, are you excited about getting older? I don't know if you're excited.
I'm not so much excited. I think I will be very happy when I turn 30 because I will be like, I've made it. Oh, and also like, the early death capital of the world, right? I think that every year that I get personally is like a gift because of the geographic place I sprang from. But also I feel like I've had my, you know, struggles with like anxiety and depression and things like that. And I didn't always think that I would like make it that far, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there is some sort of, with us, we are young, and that's discounted in some sort of way. That is like, you know, wait, you know, it's always wait. And then now it's like the time in which like, I do think it's a shift is sort of happening at this stage that's like, and now you're starting to slowly become more accepted whereas like I was doing the same thing before, but yeah, I do think I've grown, but it's like I was told to wait.
Yourself,
I was told to wait for so long.
This is like more of a comedic tangent.
Okay. Love comedic tangents on here.
Love comedic tangents. So there was this article I read. I'll send it to you after the show. And it's basically this woman takes over her like daughter's identity. But she's like 47, 48. And she's portraying herself as like an 18-year-old. And I was talking to one of my mentors about this. And I was like, I think this is so hilarious because you look at this woman, you're like, she's 48. Yeah. But everyone's like believing her. And I'm like, it's because we think that when women turn 18, they immediately start looking like, you know, they're like decrepit. Yeah. I'm like, and that's I was like, she wouldn't have gotten away with this if society wasn't so weird about aging. Yeah. And my mentor laughed and she's like, yeah, you're probably right. But I still think that's hilarious that you're like, that you pieced it together. Yeah. Have you seen the buccal fat removal?
Oh, too? Yeah.
That's so gnarly. Yeah. And in like 20 years, they're going to put it back in.
Yeah. It's going to be another thing, the trendy thing. Yeah. No, it's always up and down. They're saying with, heroin chic's supposed to be coming back in.
God. No, that was the worst period of my life. I will never be that girl.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, like, truthfully, so I've grown a beard now.
You have,
recently.
Yeah.
And
it's impressive.
Thanks. I had never done it before because I had to officially, I think, give up the idea that I was going to be, I don't know, thinner, or I don't know. I think there's a word for it, but I just had to give up that idea that was ever going to be the case. And, but
this idealized image of yourself. Yeah.
And so, but then I've gotten more compliments on the beard than I've any thing I've ever done.
Yeah. And you're like, seriously?
Yeah.
This?
Yeah.
It's the white shoes all over again.
Yeah, I know it is. I think so. And it's like, and I think it where I honestly didn't think it would come out as good as it did, or I would have done it probably sooner.
It's not patchy at all, which is so interesting.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I really thought it was going to be horribly patchy and horribly, I don't know. But
does your family have anything to say about it?
No, I think my mom was a little on the fence about it at first.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, I don't know, because she was always never wanting to do that now, or never, like, just because it's a change. I think everyone's like at first, and all that, and I was a little like I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna do it, or what, I don't know. But one thing is that I was nervous about, like, I don't know how it's going to turn out, and I don't want you're doing this huge experiment in front of everybody.
Yeah, and you don't want them to like look at you. And
yeah. Well, and it's also, in a certain sense, I feel like embracing some sort of masculine thing, and I'm like, and I don't want that, and so I don't want it to be taken in some sort of way like that. And so that was where it's like, well, what does it mean and all that? And then ultimately it was just like, okay, it's looked better than I thought it was going to be. So I guess it's going to stay, because it was just an experiment, but I don't know. We'll see. I do like it. So good.
I'm glad. Yeah. We love it.
Guess I'll talk about it. Yeah. So it was a different color because it's kind of redder than the rest of my, which was interesting. I had red hair as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. And I grew out of it and everything. So
I find it fascinating when people because I've always had black hair.
Yeah.
Like I was born with a lot of hair and I still do. But yeah, like when, oh my God, my favorite thing, you're not like this at all, but like when people are like, I was blonde as a baby, you can still kind of see it in the sun. And I think that's so funny.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had it all the way up to like I was 3 years old.
Whoa.
And then it went away.
Was your mom sad?
No, my father had red hair.
Okay. I was like, where'd you get it?
Yeah, my father had red hair, has red hair.
Does he get bald?
No, he has red hair and everything. And then it went away. I guess it's maybe,
And you're an only child, right?
I'm an only child.
So it was his only chance to have a red hair.
Yeah. Which I don't mind. Either way is fine with me.
Yeah.
I do think that the hair was something that was probably the most notable native sort of feature I had from there. So with the dark brown, but otherwise, not much of anything there. But what was the tent? Where did that all start from?
It started from the woman who took over her daughter's life and the buccal fat.
Well, before that,
we're talking about death.
Death was the point of that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, about aging and how death is related to aging.
Yeah. So death, like,
or how people think that aging is like some kind of little death. We go through.
And so I must say, currently, I wish I could just stay at the age I currently am. I think that, like, I've heard people that are also our age that are like, oh, I'm starting to ache, or I'm starting to do, I don't know if that much of a believe all that. Cause I'm like, I feel just as good, if not better than I ever have.
That's good. You're Benjamin Button.
And so that's, I don't know. I'm not happy with, I don't know. I mean, are you feeling worse?
I don't feel worse. I think that
I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm like, I feel fine.
I feel like, I'm trying to think. I feel like my back hurts sometimes, but I feel like my back is always hurt.
Yeah, that's what the thing of like.
I don't feel worse though.
The thing is, like, I think perhaps I've never been in the most exceptional health, that it's not like I'm never, like, ran marathons and everything. So it's like, I think other people,
and tears on you.
Everyone else has like a steeper drop to have. It's like, I think it's fine as far as
they're like, I'm becoming decrepit. I'm like, actually, yeah, I feel the same as I've always felt.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. It's been the sort of, but yeah, death in general. I feel like it was very openly talked about as a kid, like in my household.
The native grandmas love to talk about
death. Yeah. And my mother, she both, like death's a huge part of the experiments. And there's a lot of people, of course, as you know, die young and everything. My mother lost both of her brothers. And so my grandmother lost, 2 of her children. And that was, so it was
Were
always.
You her only grandchild? Sorry, not to interrupt.
No, one of, I have a cousin who was, I have 2. So, okay, I have.
Sorry, I was just really curious.
I have 3 cousins who we share a grandmother, and they have, that's my mother's brother's children.
Okay.
Before he passed away. And so they all, so they're the same grandmother and everything. But yeah, and the crazy thing about that is that I have a cousin there who is, same blood. We had the same, Cherokee and or same Cherokee blood and everything. And he's several shades darker than me, and no one would ever question it or anything. And because his father, was darker and everything. Right. It's just kind of how that worked.
My siblings are very dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, they had a different, experience and everything. Like it's different to like, no one's ever sort of, questions it like within the community or even out of it. It's interesting because people respond in different, like when I tell people that, it seems like, a way I see it, like there's white people or different people in general, non-natives in general, respond like either of like, they don't know what to do with that information. Yeah. They're just like, and moving on.
Yeah. They're like, cool.
Yeah. They look at you and they're like, there's a panic in their eyes maybe. And they're just like, and shift. Don't even know how to remotely touch that issue and moving on. And I have several people that I'm close friends with that they know, never have they ever said anything about it. It's bizarre. But then at the same time, I don't know what they would say, about it, but it's also like have an opinion about it. I don't know. Or bring it up sometimes. And
I feel like that's a pervasive thing with like indigenous issues. It's like, ooh, we don't have the talking points for this. We don't have like the reference, you know?
Yeah. And so they're just like, and I'm not touching that at all.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So there's that. And then there's the one who you tell and then they're like, they feel like they found the most interesting nugget ever.
That's the only thing about you. Yeah.
Or that they'll bring it up, like you'll be meeting somebody with them or whatever, and they bring it up in conversation as if it's like theirs to bring out and tell people.
They're like,
I'll out Alex like that. American. Alex will meet somebody and he'll bring it up in conversation before I ever say anything. I'm like, that was an appropriate time to ever bring it, or like as if that's but Alex also just says everything.
Yeah, so Alex, writer's block. That's why you have writer's block.
And so he like that's and so like several times it's like I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's I wouldn't have done that at this time or if even like or it's not 100% yours to share that or it's mine, but I don't know. So there's 2 different things of that. And I've know a few people like that of like, that they'll sort of bring that up for me in different times. And it's like, or they don't.
They're trying to legitimize you.
Yeah. Or that they're, to me, it reads like I don't know. It's like a conversation piece or that they want to, I don't know. It's like, it's like, oh, and this, I don't know. I don't exactly know why it is or what it is. But I do at the same time to defend Alex, I do appreciate that he doesn't, sort of shy away from it or he'll ask different things and stuff. And I, to
defend Alex.
and I appreciate someone, kind of asking about my experience and everything and like, and just genuinely wanting to know more. Cause I do think there's a lot of people who don't want to know anything. and who are, I think, currently I work with a lot with our museums of the Cherokee Nation and everything. And I think that everyone lives in Cherokee Nation or even around in, areas close to it should visit these things and learn the history of the lands that they're on, or visit, Muskogee Nation has museums in too that I've been to and everything. And anytime I'm in a community, I try to check out like what the Native Museum, that their cultural centers and stuff, to just understand their story and everything. And I've been through a lot of them around in this area and everything. There's a bunch up in Miami because that's the largest concentration of Indian nations in the country. And so they have a few different things up there. But it's I want to know more, and everything. Perhaps that's me Native and seeing like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That's a similar story or whatever to our stories, and how it differentiates and how, anyways. But I kind of wish people would take some of that initiative and want to learn. But I think some people are just like, I don't know how to do that. Yeah,
especially there's so many Native people in Oklahoma. Like you would think that there would be a drive there. But I think too, there is this, I don't know. It's like, if you acknowledge that, you acknowledge like some guilt or some, if you like want to, and I'm like, no, nobody's asking you to feel guilty. Like, it's just like, you should learn now.
There's that. And then there's like, there's still that sort of hesitation from a liberal perspective of being like, what's cultural appropriation, or which part is me like, ooh, like they don't want to seem like, ooh, I'm fascinated by natives to like, they don't want to come off like that, but they also don't want to, so it's like it's weird. Like in that there's a weird thing with Native art in that way. I know a lot of Native artists of like people, they're like, they want people to buy their works, but then like some people who would be interested
don't want to hang it in their house.
Hang it in their house because it's like, is this culturally,
like, you're supporting a Native artist.
Or jewelries in particular, another thing.
Like turquoise.
That people are kind of like, I don't know what's appropriate here in this situation. I would love to support you, but then like, can I wear it? Can I, and it's a whole thing that's just like people that are, and I think that, Native nations are very welcoming and want to share their story and everything. And
I think so too. It's more of like an internalized thing.
Yeah. And it's truthfully, I think that these conversations haven't been had on the national scale, whereas other groups have been able to sort of have had at least a section of news or things that they can talk about these, or their culture is been a part of something, that people at least know and have something to, connect to, but we don't, Natives don't really have, it's shocking how little, even here in the Tulsa market, which is the third largest concentration of Native Americans in the country, how little Native American issues are talked about in the nightly news. And that's a huge, huge problem. And if it is, it's McGirt.
My God, yeah. Which is important, but it's like, it's not the only thing that exists.
Yeah, well, there's triumph. I mean, perhaps that's a problem with news in general, is they don't sort of tell the triumphant stories, but there's other stories.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah. But no, I don't know. I don't know what the point of all that.
No, it was good. Yeah.
And I'm excited. Like, I mean, do you, it seems like, there's a lot more avenues that's opening up for Natives, and there's a lot of specific things for that. Do you see that in your sort of side of what you're working on? I do. And I think more and more people are less, consumed with like, they're going to let, I don't know. I don't have to be the perfect representative for like all Native people. Yeah. And more publications are letting me be like an imperfect narrator, which I really enjoy, because like, I'm not trying to make like a statement for all Cherokee people, but I am a Cherokee person. And like, I welcome like the diversity of stories that come with that. And I appreciate that, like you, where you're talking about like dreams and different things, and it sometimes relates to a Native American lens or whatever, but it's also just something else in some respects. Right. And a lot of my readers are white, and
yeah, I'm like, in my tribe, it means this, but like, and I'm not saying it's like a universal image, but maybe you could take that because I'm like giving it to you. And I think that comforts them a little bit to be more open.
Yeah.
With me and other people.
We always like to ask people especially who are in things or working on things. So like, advice. Do you have any advice for people who are young writers wanting to, how to navigate all that?
So depending on if you're wanting to go into like a creative or like a more journalistic-y field, you want to really try to cultivate your voice. And the only way you do that is through practice. But when you start to think about like what you want to write, you can have like a diversity of ideas. You don't have to have one lens. You don't have to have one beat. But you should know exactly how you want to tell it. So that's my advice. Like really cultivate your voice, focus on, not on others. Like you should read a lot, you should read widely, but you don't need to like mimic because there's going to be a door open for you. I hope.
Yeah. That's very, I mean, like I think in general, any artist like that, a lot is sort of told in schools about the rules and the sort of what's the barriers of mediums and what, here's the formats and things but the most important thing is having a unique voice and having something to tell.
And not to be obsessed about what sells. Like, yes, we have to live in this like capitalistic hellscape. Like we have to be able to make money, but like you yourself, especially if you're a young artist, like you don't need to be concerned with what sells so much. Just like cultivate yourself first and the rest will come. I truly think that because, like once you develop your voice and they're like, oh, you're a good writer. Like, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can worry about that later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a fun place to end on.
Yeah, I think so.
I think happy and everything. Well, I thank you, Autumn, for being on here.
You're welcome. I had so much fun.
Yeah. Did it feel like the ones that you had seen? It's a little different. It's a little bit more laid back and a little bit.
Yeah. I feel good.
Yeah. Sometimes we do segments, but sometimes I just like having conversations.
Love the conversation. We had a good conversation.
I think so. We talked about a lot of things. If you want to hear more about Autumn with her take about Puss in Boots, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Cade
You're
Thomas.
gonna want to.
But more importantly, where can people follow you? And
you can follow me at sadboyhowdy.substack.com and sadboyhowdy on Instagram. Or you can just Google Autumn Fourkiller. I'm the only one that I know of. So
yeah, well, that's really good. And so so Instagram's really where they can find just you can see me post all kinds of stuff. Not always related to dreams. Yeah. Love a Snoopy meme. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah. You got some cool vibes. I think they get a good idea of what, your vibe is from there. Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know, pastels and kind of.
Yeah. I love a collage.
A collage. Yeah.
I never just post one picture. It has to be like 6 or 7.
Yeah. But that way they can also see whenever you have, an article out or something.
And I always post when I have a new Substack newsletter out.
Exactly. Why'd you pick Sad Boy Howdy? I like that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's like the name I interpret dreams under, but I just like sign off. Like they say, dear howdy. And I say, see you on the other side. Howdy. But I'm just, my grandpa like wasn't a cowboy, but he like dressed in like pearl snaps and Levi's and like a cowboy hat. And I loved him so much. And then I kept thinking about the phrase boy howdy and how I always describe myself as a sad boy. So I'm like, I'm just a sad boy. And then I was like, boy howdy, sad boy howdy. That's me. I feel like that describes me perfectly. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. Well, yeah. So follow her on all of all my things, all the things and everything. So yeah. And then you bi-weekly, you post on your Substack.
And I have some exciting things coming out in like February, March.
Yes. Which this will actually probably be a little after. Yeah. so it's out now. Maybe.
It's out now wherever you read on the internet.
Yeah, and that's exciting. You was telling me about that. It's really exciting stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's really kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a big deal. It's kind of secret right now, but yeah, it's a big deal.
But that will be public information, I guess, that you can find out now and see and everything. But yeah. Okay. Well, thanks.
Great. Thanks, Cade.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. If it
Water. Yeah. Take a.
This is my close up.
Made me spill water on myself too. As you're choking, you say, "Is this my close up?"